The Maasai called this land Seringet, the place where the land runs on forever. From any vantage point, it's a name that feels undeniably true, but this iconic endlessness is no accident of geography. It is a direct legacy of ancient, cataclysmic forces. Millennia ago, volcanoes of the Ngorongoro highlands blanketed this region in a fine layer of ash. This soil, rich in minerals like phosphorus, is too shallow to support the deep roots of trees, creating the vast, uninterrupted short grass plains that define the southern Serengeti. And it is this very geology that dictates the rhythm of life here. The nutrient-dense grasses provide the perfect nursery for over 500,000 wildebeest calves born each year, acting as the fundamental trigger for the Great Migration. The herds are not merely crossing a landscape. They are responding to a deep, geological promise, a cycle of nourishment written in stone and ash, where the very ground beneath their hooves is the architect of their epic journey. Beneath the tranquil surface of Yellowstone's celebrated wilderness lies a geological engine of almost unimaginable scale. The park is, in essence, the vast caldera of a supervolcano, a collapsed crater so immense, measuring roughly 30 by 45 miles, that its true form was only confirmed from the vantage point of space. This is the surface expression of a magma chamber simmering just a few miles below. A reservoir of molten rock large enough to fill the Grand Canyon more than 11 times over. This subterranean furnace is the why behind every spectacle. The clockwork eruptions of Old Faithful, the painter's palette of the Grand Prismatic Spring, the bubbling mud pots, all are simply vents, releasing the immense pressure from a system that last erupted with world-altering force over 600,000 years ago. It is this profound duality that defines the Yellowstone experience, a sanctuary of breathtaking serenity, perpetually shaped and sustained by one of the planet's most restless geological hearts. To arrive at Machu Picchu is to understand why it remained a secret from the wider world for centuries. Perched nearly 2,430 meters above sea level, this citadel was no accident of location. Its architects, master stonemasons of the Inca Empire, chose this specific ridge for its spiritual power, a place where earth and sky meet, flanked by the sacred peaks of the Andes. They engineered the city in dialogue with the mountain itself, employing a technique called ashlar to shape massive granite blocks that fit together without a drop of mortar, a seamless joinery so precise that centuries of seismic tremors have failed to dislodge them. More than 600 terraces cascade down the slopes, serving not just as agricultural plots, but as a sophisticated retaining wall, anchoring the entire complex to the precipice. This was a place of profound connection, a royal estate and ceremonial center designed to harmonize with the cosmos, leaving us to contemplate the world view that could command the very stone of the mountains and the sudden silence that eventually fell upon it. The silhouette of Mont Saint-Michel is less a building on the horizon than a geological inevitability, a primal granite outcrop that has commanded this bay for millennia, its ancient stone seeming to rise from the very bones of the earth. Its story, however, is written not by masons, but by water. Here, the tide, a force of legendary proportions, rushes in across the vast shimmering flats of the Quenon estuary. The spectacle begins subtly, with glistening channels snaking through the sand, before the main surge arrives, famously said to advance at the speed of a galloping horse. With one of the highest tidal ranges in Europe, reaching a staggering 14 meters between its extremes, this relentless surge of the Atlantic performs a daily miracle of transformation. What was, moments before, a walkable plain of rippled sand and shallow pools becomes, in a matter of hours, a churning sea, rendering the mount a true and isolated island. For over 1,000 years, this powerful, predictable rhythm was the abbey's greatest defense, a liquid wall more formidable than any stone. This natural moat, swelling and receding with lunar precision, shaped its profound dual identity. It was at once a celestial sanctuary, its spire a delicate finger pointing toward the heavens, and an impregnable earthly fortress, a bastion against the temporal world, forever anchored not just in the deep-set stone of its foundations, but in the constant, immutable power of the ocean that both guards and defines it. What confronts the eye on this stretch of the Antrim coast feels less like a landscape and more like the ruins of some colossal, forgotten city. Yet its architect was not a mythical giant, but the Earth's own inner fire. Some 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene epoch, vast fissures tore open the crust, pouring out thick beds of molten thalliitic basalt. As this immense river of liquid rock began to cool, a remarkable process of contraction and fracturing commenced from the top down. The surface, exposed to the air, solidified first, and as the lava beneath it continued to lose heat, the resulting tension created a network of cracks that propagated downwards. This slow, inexorable cooling process organized the rock into a vast mosaic of tightly packed polygonal columns, most famously hexagons, creating the illusion of a meticulously laid causeway or the foundations of a Cyclopean temple. This was not a singular event, but part of a prolonged period of intense volcanism that sculpted a vast plateau. For millennia, these incredible formations lay buried, and only the patient, relentless work of glacial ice and the unceasing battery of the sea have carved away the softer surrounding rock, exposing the hard, crystalline heart of the ancient lava flows for us to witness. To understand Kyoto, one must look past the ephemeral beauty of its blossoms and silks to the city's invisible, unyielding foundation, its grid. Laid down in the year 794, the original capital of Heian-kyo was a direct and ambitious replica of Chang'an, the great Tang dynasty capital in China. This was more than urban planning. It was a cosmic map, a chessboard for emperors and nobles designed to mirror celestial order on Earth. For over 1,200 years, this rational framework has served as the city's skeleton. Beneath the gentle curves of temple roofs and the organic growth of modern life, these unwavering avenues impose a relentless logic, dictating the flow of movement and shaping the very experience of the space. It is this foundational geometry that creates Kyoto's profound paradox, a city built on the principles of absolute, imported order that has, over centuries, become the world's foremost sanctuary for appreciating the imperfect, the transient, and the quiet asymmetry of the natural world. The gleam of Dubrovnik streets is its most immediate signature, a vast expanse of limestone polished to a marble-like sheen by centuries of footsteps. At its heart, the main thoroughfare, the Stradun, cuts a remarkably straight and wide path, a feature that feels almost unnaturally planned amidst the medieval tangle of alleys. This, however, is the city's origin story told in stone. For hundreds of years, this very avenue was a murky sea channel, a literal and symbolic divide between two distinct communities: the Roman Italic refuge on the rocky islet of Laos and the Slavic settlement of Dubrava, nestled in the oak forests of the mainland. In the 12th century, the channel was deliberately filled in, an immense act of civil engineering that did more than create a street. It physically forged a single city. What was once a barrier became the central artery of the powerful Republic of Ragusa. To walk the Stradun today is to tread upon this foundational union, a testament to a city built not just on stone, but on a strategic vision of unity. To gaze upon the Amalfi Coast is to witness an architectural defiance of gravity, a cascade of pastel homes tumbling towards the Tyrrhenian Sea. Yet this breathtaking verticality was not an aesthetic choice, but a stark necessity forged in an age of terror. From the 9th to the 11th centuries, the constant threat of Saracen pirates drove the inhabitants of the once mighty maritime republic inland, and, most critically, upward. They sought refuge in the unforgiving limestone precipices of the Laetari Mountains, carving their existence into the rock itself. The thousands of stone steps and labyrinthine alleys that now charm visitors were originally strategic arteries, designed to be easily defended against invaders from the sea. Every terraced lemon grove, every seemingly precarious perch, is a silent monument to a community's will to survive. It is a profound and beautiful paradox that this landscape, so meticulously engineered for seclusion and defense, has evolved into one of the world's most sought-after and welcoming destinations. The name itself, Iguazu, is a masterpiece of understatement from the native Guarani people, translating simply to big water. Yet what confronts the senses is anything but simple. This is not a singular curtain of water, but a complex, fractured system of nearly 300 individual falls cascading along a 3-kilometer crescent. The origin of this spectacle lies deep in geological time, born from a colossal volcanic eruption some 132 million years ago that blanketed the land in hard basalt. The river, in its patient journey, found the weaknesses in this stone armor, carving a 2-step amphitheater that exposes the dark, layered rock. Each year, the relentless force of the water grinds the precipice back by another 3 millimeters, a slow, inexorable retreat that reminds us we are not witnessing a static monument, but a dynamic and powerful geological process unfolding one drop at a time. Stretching across the arid plains of the Irrawaddy River, the Bagan Archaeological Zone is more than just a breathtaking landscape. It is a profound testament to an era of explosive spiritual devotion. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, the kings and citizens of the pagan empire embarked on one of history's most ambitious construction projects, erecting over 10,000 Buddhist temples, pagodas, and monasteries. This incredible proliferation was driven by the core tenets of Theravada Buddhism and the concept of merit-making, where building a stupa was considered a paramount act of piety, securing spiritual benefits for the patron in their next life. Each of the more than 2,000 surviving structures, from the grandest gold-leafed stupa to the humblest brick shrine half swallowed by vegetation, represents a personal prayer and a piece of a collective, centuries-long quest for enlightenment. What we see today is not merely a collection of ancient monuments, but the physical manifestation of a kingdom's soul, an enduring chronicle of faith etched in brick and stone. The approach to Petra through the Psyche is more than a dramatic overture. It is the very key to understanding its existence. For the Nabateans, this narrow, winding gorge, carved by millennia of flash floods, was not merely a defensible gateway. It was a conduit for life itself. Look closely at the canyon walls, and you can still trace the remains of their masterwork. Channels and terracotta pipes that captured every precious drop of rainwater, feeding a complex system of cisterns and dams. This sophisticated hydraulic engineering transformed a forbidding desert landscape into a lush, artificial oasis, capable of supporting a population of over 20,000 people. The magnificent facades we see today, hewn from the rose-red sandstone, were therefore not just acts of artistic ambition. They were monuments to a civilization that had mastered its most vital resource, turning unforgiving rock into a thriving center of commerce and culture. The notion of a single, continuous Great Wall is a powerful myth, but the reality is a far more complex and fascinating tapestry of engineering. In truth, it is not one wall, but a series of fortifications built over nearly 2 millennia, a colossal undertaking that adapted to the very ground it stood upon. Early sections, some dating back to the 7th century BC, were constructed from compacted earth and woven reeds, materials dictated by the local terrain. What we see today, the iconic crenellated ramparts of kiln-fired brick and cut stone, is largely the masterwork of the Ming Dynasty. Its true genius, however, lies in this pragmatic use of place. It is a geological extension of the very mountains it conquers, hugging the precipitous ridgelines. This monumental effort came at an incalculable human cost, with a workforce of soldiers and conscripts numbering in the millions, earning it the somber, unofficial title of the longest cemetery on Earth. It was less a simple barrier and more a definitive statement etched into the planet, a line separating the nomadic world from the heart of Chinese civilization. From the winding streets of Granada's Albaycin, it appears not as a palace, but as a formidable, sun-baked citadel. Its name, Alhambra, is a direct echo of its form. Alcalá Alhambra, Arabic for the Red Fortress. This isn't poetry, it's a literal description of the ferrous clay and gravel packed into its immense ramparts, which have glowed under the Andalusian sun since the 13th century. This austere, martial exterior was a deliberate choice, a projection of power from its strategic perch on Sabika Hill, overlooking the entire plain. Yet, the true genius of its Nasrid creators lies in the paradox it contains. Beyond these imposing walls, they engineered not a barracks, but a vision of paradise on earth. A breathtaking world of intricate stucco work, serene courtyards, and the constant, life-giving murmur of water. It is a structure built for defense, yet dedicated entirely to the celebration of beauty. A final, magnificent testament to a civilization at the apex of its refinement. The sheer granite faces of Yosemite Valley do not simply rise from the earth, they are what remains. Over 1 million years ago, colossal glaciers, some reaching 4,000 feet in thickness, ground their way through this landscape. This was not a gentle erosion, but a relentless quarrying. The ice plucked and scoured away softer rock, yet the famously resilient El Capitan and Half-Dome granodiorite resisted, their vertical joints forcing the ice to carve around them. When the last of these great ice rivers receded, it left behind a deep U-shaped trough dammed by moraine, which filled to become the ancient Lake Yosemite. For centuries, sediment settled at its bottom, creating the impossibly flat valley floor we see today, a serene meadow born from an age of unimaginable geologic violence. To stand here is to witness the quiet aftermath of a process that measures its progress not in lifetimes, but in epochs. The first encounter with Angkor Wat is not with stone, but with water. A vast moat, nearly 200 meters wide and over 5 kilometers in circumference, encircles the complex, creating an island of divine order in the Cambodian jungle. This is no mere defensive feature. It is a masterpiece of Khmer hydroengineering. By meticulously managing the water level, the moat stabilizes the temple's sandy foundations, preventing the earth from shifting under the weight of millions of tons of sandstone. It is a practical solution to a monumental challenge. Yet, its true purpose transcends the physical. This engineered sea is a symbolic representation of the cosmic ocean that, in Hindu cosmology, surrounds the sacred Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods. To cross it is to leave the temporal world behind, beginning a pilgrimage not just to a temple, but to the very center of the universe, as its 12th century builders envisioned it. To the naked eye, the Canadian Rockies appear as an eternal, unyielding fortress of stone. But this is a landscape born not of fire, but of water and immense pressure. The jagged peaks surrounding Banff are composed primarily of sedimentary rock, layers of limestone and shale that formed on the floor of a vast inland sea over hundreds of millions of years. Beginning some 75 million years ago, a colossal tectonic collision began to buckle the Earth's crust, thrusting this ancient seabed thousands of meters into the sky. What we see today, the castellated summit of Mount Rundle, the sawtooth ridges of the Fairholme Range, is the result of that slow-motion upheaval, sculpted further by millennia of glacial ice. It's why paleontologists can find the fossilized remains of marine creatures at elevations exceeding 3,000 meters. To stand here is to stand not just in the mountains, but on the floor of a vanished ocean, a profound reminder that even the most solid ground beneath our feet is merely a chapter in a much grander story. From a distance, the Taj Mahal appears as a singular, ethereal entity, a perfect vision carved from ivory white marble. But to truly understand its genius, one must draw closer. What seems to be delicate paintwork is, in fact, pietra dura, an astonishingly complex inlay of semi-precious stones. Over 28 different types of gems, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, jade from China, carnelian from Arabia, were painstakingly cut and fitted into the marble with such precision that the joints are nearly invisible. This was more than mere ornamentation. It was a deliberate choice by the 17th century artisans. By embedding the very colors of the earth into the tomb, they ensured the Quranic verses and floral paradises adorning its walls would never fade. It is a declaration of permanence, a vision of eternity built not with fleeting pigment, but with the unyielding substance of the planet itself. A love story literally written in stone. To comprehend Venice is to first look beneath its surface, past the shimmering reflections on the water. The city's founders, fleeing mainland invasions over 1,500 years ago, drove millions of alder wood piles, some up to 60 feet long, directly into the soft clay and sand of the lagoon bed. In a remarkable act of accidental chemistry, the oxygen-poor saline mud did not cause the timber to decay. Instead, it petrified it, hardening the wood over centuries into a stone-like foundation. Upon this submerged, man-made forest rests the entire weight of the marble palazzos and stone basilicas that seem to float so effortlessly. Every step taken through its labyrinthine calle is a step supported by an ancient, invisible feat of engineering. It is a testament not to magic, but to a profound, almost stubborn, human ingenuity. A metropolis of 118 islands built not on solid ground, but on the defiance of it. These peaks are not merely stone. They are a geological saga, born from the slow, inexorable collision of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates over tens of millions of years. This immense pressure folded and thrust ancient seabeds skyward, creating the complex nappies of gneiss and schist that form the backbone of the Alps. Glacial artistry then carved this uplifted mass into the iconic pyramidal horns we see today, a process perfectly embodied by the solitary majesty of the Matterhorn. Yet this landscape, forged by unimaginable forces, is also a human one. For over 700 years, communities have adapted to these high valleys, their timber-built villages and carefully tended pastures representing a quiet, enduring dialogue with the mountain. It is a testament not to conquest, but to a profound and hard-won understanding of place, where every path and every roofline tells a story of persistence against the sublime and the vertical. The first glimpse of Meteora defies earthly logic, suggesting a landscape sculpted by gods rather than geology. Yet, the story of these pillars is not one of fire and brimstone. They are not volcanic cores as their dramatic forms might imply. Instead, their origins lie submerged in deep time, 60 million years in the past, at the bottom of a vast inland sea. Here, layer upon layer of river-borne sediment, sand, stone, and mud were compressed into a solid mass of conglomerate and sandstone. Tectonic forces then thrust this ancient seabed skyward, exposing it to millennia of relentless sculpting by wind and rain, which etched away the softer rock to reveal the hardened columns we see today. It was onto this profoundly ancient stage that the first hermit monks arrived around the 9th century, seeing not just a geological wonder, but a divine invitation. In these vertical pillars, they found the ultimate sanctuary, a physical ladder to the heavens that perfectly mirrored their own spiritual quest to rise above the distractions of the world below. The iconic image of Santorini, with its whitewashed villages clinging to the cliffs, presents a facade of almost impossible tranquility. Yet this serene landscape is a direct consequence of one of the largest volcanic cataclysms in human history. Around 3,600 years ago, the colossal Minoan eruption eviscerated the island, creating the vast sea-filled caldera that defines its crescent shape today. This single, violent event is the true architect of the island. The sheer cliffs are the scarred walls of the ancient volcano, and the unique, fertile soil that nourishes its distinctive Assyrtiko grapes is the very ash from that prehistoric blast. To stand here is to witness a profound paradox, a place of sublime, peaceful beauty born from an apocalypse, a constant and humbling reminder that the most breathtaking landscapes are often forged in the planet's most formidable fires. The Kololo people called it Mosi Oatunya, the smoke that thunders, a name that speaks not just to the site, but to the elemental sound that defines this landscape. What one hears is the voice of geology at work. The Zambezi River is not simply falling over a cliff, it is actively quarrying its way backwards through a vast sheet of Karoo basalt, laid down some 180 million years ago. The river's true power lies in its patient exploitation of weakness. Ancient, east-west fissures in the hard rock filled with softer sandstone. It scours these fault lines relentlessly until a new chasm collapses, and the entire 1.7-kilometer curtain of water abandons its old position. The 7 dramatic zigzagging gorges that snake away from the precipice are the indelible scars of past falls, a testament to a slow-motion retreat. We are not looking at a static feature, but a living frontier of erosion, a force of nature caught in the perpetual act of sculpting its own magnificent past. The genius of Chichen Itza is not merely in the stone it carved, but in the ground upon which it stands. Unlike other great Maya cities sustained by rivers, this metropolis rose from a flat, arid limestone shelf, its lifeblood drawn from vast subterranean sinkholes known as cenotes. These were more than wells. They were sacred portals to the underworld, the realm of the rain god, Chak, and the site of profound ritual offerings. The city's very name, at the mouth of the well of the Itza, anchors it to this unique hydrology. The Grand Pyramid of Kukulkan, with its 91 steps on each of its 4 sides, culminating in a total of 365, acts as a cosmic axis, a man-made mountain connecting precise celestial observations above with the sacred waters below. Here, architecture and astronomy were not separate disciplines, but a unified expression of a worldview where survival and divinity flowed from the same hidden source, a testament to a people who understood that their power was inextricably linked to the fragile, water-filled world beneath their feet. This seemingly alien terrain is, in fact, a story written in stone and ash, a geological epic 60 million years in the making. The process began with three great Anatolian volcanoes, Mount Erciyes, Mount Hasan, and Gulu Dağ, which blanketed the plateau in thick layers of soft volcanic tuff. Over this, a subsequent layer of hard, protective basalt settled. For millennia, wind and water went to work, washing away the pliable tuff but leaving the durable basalt caps intact, sculpting the iconic pillars we now call fairy chimneys. Yet this is where nature's story ends and humanity's begins. For early Christians fleeing persecution, this malleable geology offered a unique sanctuary. They didn't just live amongst these formations, they carved into them, creating thousands of dwellings, fresco-adorned chapels, and entire subterranean cities, turning a volcanic wasteland into a testament of resilience. It is a profound dialogue between geology and humanity, a landscape first carved by the elements and then hollowed by the hand of faith and the fundamental need for refuge. To gaze upon Ha Long Bay is to witness a world sculpted by deep time. This is a classic example of a mature karst landscape, a geological process that began over 500 million years ago when this region was a shallow sea. What we see today, nearly 2,000 limestone pillars rising from the emerald waters, is the result of a slow-motion invasion as the sea level rose following the last ice age, flooding the valleys and leaving only the peaks. Local legend speaks of a great dragon descending to protect Vietnam, its thrashing tail carving these formations, and it's easy to see why myth was needed to explain such a sight. The geological truth, however, is a testament to an even more patient artist. Water, which has spent millennia dissolving, carving, and revealing the hidden architecture within the stone. Each grotto and islet is a chapter in that story, a reminder that the world's most breathtaking monuments are not built in a lifetime, but are slowly, relentlessly unveiled by the elements themselves. Carved from the very bones of the Cordillera Mountains, this amphitheater of green is far more than an agricultural marvel. Popular lore dates these colossal earthworks back 2 millennia, but compelling archaeological evidence points to a more recent and perhaps more profound origin story. A 400-year-old act of cultural defiance engineered by the Ifugao people as a strategic retreat from Spanish colonial pressure. This is not merely farming, it is hydroengineering on a monumental scale, a self-sustaining system where each terrace wall of stone and earth is meticulously sloped and supported. Intricate, gravity-fed irrigation channels draw life from the communally managed Muyong forests crowning the peaks, a testament to a people who understood their ecosystem with absolute intimacy. What we witness, then, is not a static relic of the past, but a living chronicle etched in soil and stone, a landscape of resistance and resilience, where every harvest is a continuation of a story of enduring self-determination.